I'm Ben. I'm one of the design managers here at Atlassian. I look after the kind of amorphous pan-product world of design strategy. Beyond that, if you want to know more, please come and talk to me afterwards. And I'm here to tell you a bit about how we redesigned, or I should say reimagined, our personas. Look, I apologise for using the reimagined word. I was struggling to think, what am I going to call this presentation? And that's the best that I could do about half an hour ago. So think of it as I want to tell you a bit about how we redesigned the personas. But the point I really want you to take from this is if you are using personas, I want to give you some ideas for how you can optimise those personas and their usefulness for the people who need to actually use the personas. Now, I know as soon as I say personas, a lot of people go, oh man. And some people just like, personas, and some people go, yay. But it's like music. Everyone has an opinion about personas. Now, for me, personas are a bit like asparagus. Like if you've only ever had canned asparagus, and if that's all that you think asparagus is, you're going to think asparagus is pretty yuck. And you think, I hate asparagus. It's not a thing. And you'd avoid it. And you tell other people to avoid it, and rightly so. But if you tried real asparagus, picked fresh, maybe barbecued lightly with some hoisin sauce and some, sesame seeds and mushrooms, or as where's Maddie? Maddie was saying, no, you can't have that. You need to have it with, was it hollandaise sauce, Maddie? Where's Maddie? Anyway, you get the point. If you've had real asparagus, well then, yeah, you think asparagus is great, and you would be likely to recommend asparagus. And for me, personas are like that. A lot of people have only ever tasted canned asparagus version of personas. And for those who have tasted the real stuff, you think, yeah, look, this is actually a useful thing. Now, I wasn't going to show you this next part, but Kathy said, no, do it. I want to show you like a super brief history of personas, because it's interesting to know where we've come from as a design industry and our, if you like, opinion and perception of personas. So way back in 1983, the Right Reverend Alan Cooper here first started using personas in his work. And then in 1993, there were a couple of significant presentations by lots of people who I can't remember now, but their main point was bringing in this idea of, yes, you too can use personas, and they called them things like character maps and character charts and personas, and they brought in that distinction between marketing personas versus user experience personas, and they started going mainstream. And then, of course, Alan Cooper published The Inmates Are Running the Asylum in 1998, I think, 80. It's not relevant, Ben. Move on. Okay, and then personas went off and they went mainstream, and people loved them. Agencies large and small loved them, clients loved them, designers loved them. Everyone loves personas at this point. And what was happening was that people started to kind of muddy that line between marketing and user experience personas, like the choosers and the users. They were getting those mixed up, and it all started to smell a bit like snake oil. And then along came Jason Fried from then 37 Signals, and he said, we hate personas. They're fictitious, they're artificial, you shouldn't use them. Now, it's easy for Jason Fried to say that because he runs 37 Signals, the makers of Basecamp, and he was very proud of the fact that they designed for themselves, and they didn't need personas. And what he did was he foisted that opinion on everyone else, and everyone was, yes, you are so right, we hate personas, and suddenly everyone started kicking the boot into personas and having this massive hate fest on personas. Now, in the middle of this, another book comes out called Design for the Digital Age, and so we were trying to get some sanity back into the argument to say, no, there is a right way of designing personas, but no, the hate fest was still on, particularly when Dan Saffer came along and he stuck the boot in, and then some other people came along and said that they talked about bullshit personas versus real personas, and they were trying to kind of get some sense back into the debate that yes, there is a proper way to make and use personas. And then, of course, maybe sentiment is starting to pick up again. Who knows? But what we're left with is this very confusing area, isn't it? You know, about personas. So I want you to sort of think of that as the backdrop. And it's the same here too at Atlassian, that a lot of people inside Atlassian, have various opinions, and some are skeptical, and some hate them, and some love them, and so on. Okay, so just to make sure we're all on the same page, personas, as you probably know, are representations of distinct groups of the people for whom we are designing. It has to be informed by qualitative and quantitative research, and that research gets distilled into sets of goals and expectations and drivers that come out into behaviours and the way that people use the website or the application or whatever it is that we're designing. The personas are meant to, they're there for us to care, aren't they? Like they're there for empathy, and they're there to guide decisions about functionality and design. So here at Atlassian, we've been using personas for quite a while, well before my time, I know that. And we find they're really healthy for us, and they have all that researchy goodness baked in, and they help us to stop designing for ourselves, and they help us sort of have that sense of accurate empathy. But we had problems over time. And we had problems with their usefulness over time, and this is something I'm going to come back to as well. We started playing favourites, and that's not cool. You know, if all that effort has gone into making a set of personas, it is right and good to use all of them. Whereas what we found was we tended to only just sort of play favourites and use a few. Why is that? I think it's because we gravitated towards the ones that were most like us, which is ironic. You know, we shouldn't have done that. And the impact of that was that we were leaving out potentially swathes of customers. This is terrible. This is like therapy. Swathes of customers that didn't get like that theoretical looking into what we were designing. So, and secondly, we realised that the personas themselves had turned into just artefacts. Like, we'd done the right thing, we'd done the research, and we'd designed these kind of lovely A4 pieces, and one used to be up on the wall over there, and at one point we were even famous for sticking them up in the toilets and everywhere, because we wanted to make sure that they were top of mind for everyone. But as designers, we kind of made two wrong assumptions. We assumed that everyone just, yay, leapt out of bed and I can't wait to get to work to use these personas. Like, that was never going to happen. And the other thing was that we made the wrong assumption that people knew how to use personas. Our designers know, but we wanted product managers and developers to use them as well. And over time, that wasn't happening. So the paper artifacts themselves literally became wallpaper, and all the kind of meaning started to be lost, and we really only kind of took up about 10% of what was in them. We'd lost the detail. Let me give you an example. So one of our personas, like on incorrectly high rotation, is Alana. Now, Alana, as a persona, had a rich amount of detail. And there are a lot of Alanas in the world, and Alanas, according to our research, tend to be project managers and product managers and CEOs, system administrators, marketing managers, the list goes on. But over time, Alana as a concept just kind of got watered down, and Alana just came to mean a bossy project manager. And we kind of lost all of that effort. So when we were looking at this, we realised we kind of had three insights. It wasn't enough to just pay attention to reflecting the research and then making nice-looking A4 designs out of that. It had to be framed in a way that was relevant and useful. And I still remember at the beginning of this project, this redesign project, Maddie the venerable Matty Shrek, he said, look, if I can't actually make design decisions out of what is on this piece of paper, it's useless. And he's right. He's right. And secondly, not many people know off the bat how to use personas. Like designers know, hopefully, but we needed to make sure that they were intuitive enough just to pick up and use. And thirdly, we realised that we didn't want them just to be wallpaper. We wanted them to be in people's hands. We had to somehow increase their tactility. So, I bring you Personas 2.0. Are you ready? Have I amped you up enough? Okay, look, it's not that exciting, really. Okay, so the first thing we did was we redesigned the A4 versions because, yes, there is merit to these. And we kind of, I guess, baked in a lot more of that researchy goodness and kind of put more hooks into the content of it. So you could no longer just read it and go, so what? You know, there was more that you could relate to. There was more that you could use. More about their behaviours and attitudes. And look, a picture of their desk and everything. Because, you know, like you look at someone's desk and it speaks volumes about them, right? And putting in more of that detail made us kind of rediscover them and give us that accurate empathy back. So remember Alana? Remember how she... she got watered down before to being a bossy project manager. Well, we realised that we had to separate that distinction between persona and role. So role, what you do for a job, persona, how you do it, based on the character and drivers that you have. Now that separation, that means a lot for us here at Atlassian. Like we've got about 14 products, 40,000 customers, loads of different roles that use our products in loads of different ways. Like we need to make that sort of distinction. But if you're only working on, say, one campaign, one website, one product, you may not need that distinction. But this was important for us. Now, along with that separation, we looked at repackaging the actual form. Remember I talked about the tactility? And we realised that there's a pretty rich culture of card playing here at Atlassian. Things like Magic, the Gathering, and stuff like that. So I thought, well, let's make cards. So what we did was we made that separation into cards, where we had persona cards and role cards. So these are the ones I want to show you a bit more now. So there's Alana right there. And I'll just pull up a role card. There's a role card there. So now role cards, they basically have the role and what kind of teams you're going to find on that role. And on the back, they've got a set of questions. And by reading these questions and asking these questions, it helps us to kind of get into the mindset of that role. For example, project manager, what are the trends and how soon can you show them to me? What's our scope risk? Will we make our date? Questions like that. Questions that are in the minds of project managers, no matter what sort of person they are. And there's a set of personas that are likely to be that role based on our research. And similar, we did that, didn't we? Role cards. Boom. Okay. So, and persona cards, this is how they do that role. So in a similar way, we've got the persona, a bit of a characteristic quote, some distinct behaviours, things that hold them apart from each other. And on the back, we also have some questions that correspond to those behaviours. For example, Alana, she's a bit of a ringleader. So she's always wondering, can I understand how the show is going? Are there any fires I need to put out? Does everyone have what they need? Like, she's really good at driving teams and driving for outcome. I don't know why I'm furrowing my brow. I don't know. So how they do it, we did that. And what we do is, like, we play them together in pairs. And I've got an example here. So we use these questions to kind of frame design challenges along with these persona cards and role cards. For example, one question might be, how how might we improve charts in Jira for Alana, the project manager. Now, as I said, being a project manager, she has in mind, look, what are the trends and how soon can you show them to me? So I take it, if she's in an agile team, she might like a burn down chart, and she needs to see how the points are burning down. And so we need to think about what's the most relevant chart to show her first. But being Alana, being the kind of slightly alpha type ringleader that she is, she's got top of mind, does everyone have everything that they need? And so that starts to give us clues about, look, what's the next course of action she's likely to take after looking at this chart? And what are those sensible actions that we need to link to from that chart? But not all project managers in the world are Alanas. We also have this other more detail-oriented persona called Will. Will's a real detective. He loves problems, loves them. And I'm sure you've probably worked with different types of project managers in your working life. Now for Will, if we were to pose this question, how might we improve charts in Jira? Now, the same thing applies. He's still a project manager. He still has those priorities. But for Will now, he's asking, he's a detective. So here's Will here. One of his behaviours is a detective. And as a detective, he's thinking, what are the underlying causes? What's the sequence of events going on here? So, yeah, charts are nice, but Will's the kind of a guy, he wants to know the detail about the tasks hiding behind that chart. And he's happy to carry all that detail in his head, comb through it all, and make up his own trends in a way that Alana just doesn't have patience for. And so pairing these cards and using them together in design challenges like that kind of gave us back a better vocabulary, if you like, for talking about these design challenges. And when it came to designing these cards, we thought, look, we can go to town here. Like, we can have like upgrades and you know, we can tap one on another, and we can have like, you know, special powers and all this sort of thing. We thought, no, let's just keep it simple, because we want these to be as useful and simple as possible. So, I don't know, maybe next series we'll add the skills and weapons, who knows. So help us to have like customers literally in the palm of our hand, pardon the pun, and it's just easier to have them closer to hand. And because they are cards, I mean, I don't know about you, I'm a fan of cards. They're tactile and they lend themselves to games and playing with them like games. So on that, when we first released them, we found the more that people use them, and they did indeed find them quite intuitive to use, the more people use them, the more ways they found to use them. I remember writing a blog post on our extranet that we basically racked up about 10 different ways to use them. And one idea I really liked, a tech writing team stumbled on. I think they called it the Pick, Reveal, Discuss game. So they come up with a scenario, and then they each have their set of roll cards here. And what they do for the scenario is that they go through that pack of roll cards and they pick out what they think is the most important role in that scenario. And then they go, ta-da, and then they show each other the role. And if it's different, it gives them like a rich conversation to have. Like, why did you pick that one? Why do you think that one's important? And it's those sort of things that like literally bring the customer into the conversation. Another version, another way that people use them is in pitching and critiquing designs. So, for example, you know, what might Jose, the product manager, what's he after in this list of search results? Has it got the right information for him? And rather than just going, oh, I think this, we've got questions here that are really easy to kind of anchor that conversation. And one other way, just to share one other way, I found some guys over in San Francisco office using these cards as a bit of a workflow exploration tool. So that was pretty cool. Okay, now this is something, I was talking to Katia before, and she actually mentioned that she's kind of used, I think, cards as personas, where you were.
Yeah, the bank's got them.
So, look, people might already be doing this a lot. You might all be going, dude, this is like so 2 years ago. I don't know, but it was certainly something that is really fresh, and it's working really well for us here at Atlassian. And I'd like to encourage you to have a go at this as well. And I suppose two questions I'd like to pose to you is, what would a mobile version of your personas look like? Because that's essentially what we've done. Like, there's responsive design right there. You know, we're kind of taking a mobile handheld version of a persona there. So what would your personas look like if they were a mobile version? And the second question is, what do you think you could bake in to these cards so that people could use them without you even being in the room? Because I don't know about you, sometimes you have to, you feel like you've got to qualify your personas with lots of UX-y, jargony stuff before you sort of let a team loose and let a client loose on using the personas. See if you can actually bake that into it as an instrument. And the last thing I'll say is, let's start with prototypes. That's exactly what we did. Like, we drew our first couple of versions, and we really slick versions printed up for not much money at a range of different sizes. Yeah, it'd be really interesting to find out, like through IxDA, if this is something you want to experiment with. So I'm keen to find out if you've already been doing this, or if it's something that you give a go and have some fun and usefulness out of. Thank you. Very, very happy with the questions. I am deaf as a post, so I might be relying on someone at the front here to kind of translate. Otherwise, use your best playground voice.